Welcome to our last webinar of 2024. My name is Natalie with Sense Financial, and for those of you who don't know, we are a boutique financial firm specializing in self-directed retirement accounts with checkbook control. Today's topic is solo 401k, start and save big. And I'm here with our speaker, Brett Sininsky. I'm just going to quickly introduce him. Brett is a solo 401k and a self-directed IRA consultant here at Sense Financial. And he has a professional journey spanning over 18 years in real estate investing. And he's also a licensed California real estate agent. And his passion lies in empowering people to attain financial independence, affording them the possibility of an early retirement. Thank you, Brett, for taking the time to present today. I will let you have the floor.
All right. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sounds good.
Cool. Thank you for the introduction and all of that housekeeping stuff. Welcome to today's webinar. We are going to be discussing start and save big. Well, we're going to focus on the solo 401k, and we're going to talk a little bit about our other product, which is the self-directed IRA. Before we do that, I'm going to just do a couple things here. Let me make sure that my screen, there we go. Okay. Already saw that, don't need that. First off, I want to talk about why us. Well, we have well over 3,000 clients. More accounts than that have been created. And we have people in all 50 states and investing, from every different walk of life, investing in different things, different kinds of businesses, self-employed, employees of companies. It kind of runs the whole gamut. We've been in business since 2010, and we have maintained the focus. Dimitri, our founder, has maintained the focus intentionally on self-directed IRA and solo 401k, allowing us to be very focused on those two items and thus provide a very high level of service because we are not chasing shiny objects and providing a bunch of different services or products or whatever. So we do this at a very high level because of that. And we also have 5-star reviews all over the place. You're welcome to check those out. Google, Trustpilot, Yelp, Bigger Pockets, which if you haven't heard of is definitely worth checking out. It's like Facebook for real estate investors. So it's pretty cool. And we've been on there a long time. And so that's why us. Why listen to us? Why consider doing business with us is for everything I just mentioned. Our mission is to help clients obtain control and protect their retirement accounts. Proverbs 21:5 says, good planning and hard work lead to prosperity. And yes, we want to come alongside you in this life and help you to, you've worked hard for your money. We want to come alongside you and work hard in the capacity that we provide, the services we do in helping you to do exactly what our mission says right there, obtain control and protect your retirement account through investing in just about whatever you want. So you have your conventional investments, which think about the stock market, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, publicly traded companies. That's the bus, the train that has to stay on the tracks and kind of take you to a certain place where you want to go, but it doesn't take you quite all the way there potentially. You have to get to the stop and get from the stop to your destination and such. It serves a purpose, and it can add some diversification for sure. And then on the self-directed side, you have the off-road vehicle that can go almost anywhere you want it to, with some rules and guidelines and precautions that you want to follow so you don't get burned, but allows you to invest in just about whatever you would like around those guidelines that the IRS has so graciously provided us that I'll cover a little bit of. And what this does is it provides you true diversification. The self-directed retirement account does. It doesn't matter if it's the IRA or the 401k, they essentially have the same abilities, the same limitations in what you can invest in. Some common examples are real estate, both commercial and residential, private lending. You can become, your retirement account can become the bank and loan money to people. Incidentally, you can loan money to individuals. You can loan money to businesses. You can loan money to homeowners. there's no limit on that, right? You can originate these loans yourself, put them together from start to finish. You can invest in trust deeds and notes and mortgages that have been already originated by another company, and they want to bring you in as an investor so they can free up their capital to do more loans. It's totally up to you. Of course, cryptocurrency is a favorite right now with how sky high Bitcoin is. Personally, don't invest in crypto, but many of our clients do. One thing on that, I would recommend that you have some experience in that before you do too much of it, because I don't want to see somebody get burned. But the self-directed retirement account gives you the ability to do that. Just want to provide some word of caution there. And then precious metals is also allowed. They just can't be collectibles. And so coins don't really work because they're often considered collectibles, but gold bullion is allowed, and silver and a few others. And so Ecclesiastes 11:2 says, divide your portion to 7 or even to 8, for you do not know what misfortune may occur on the earth. And that's just really saying diversify. If you have all your money in the stock market, that's really one asset class. I know if you're in the S&P 500, it's the 500 quote unquote strongest companies in the United States. Are you diversified? Yeah, somewhat, but it's still all in the stock market. And you lose some control on that and that's part of the attraction, right? Is the passive nature of it. However, you do lose some control on that. I think one of the biggest differences between stock market and something like private lending, for example, is that you can see the handshake happening there with the money. Two parties are agreeing on the terms and conditions of this loan, right? The monthly payment, the points paid, the term of the loan, how long it is, balloon payment, yes, no, whatever the case may be. What happens in the case of a default, right? And it's secured by in an example, it would be secured by real estate, or a business perhaps, or something else. But there's recourse if there's a default. People are signing on the dotted line of exactly what the payments are going to look like, and so you just don't get those kind of quote unquote guarantees inside the stock market. I realize they're not completely guaranteed because things happen, people stop making payments, but that's why it's secured by real estate, right? So in the event of a default, you can take the property. So anyhow, I digress on that. Just one of my own 2 cents there. A quick example, Brad and Jennifer out of Phoenix, Arizona, real estate agents. Their goal was diversification. Brad came to us and said, hey, I want to invest my retirement account in real estate. I've had it in the stock market for so long and I've done well, but I'd like to unlock the funds and put them into alternative assets, non-Wall Street assets like real estate. So we established a solo 401k for him and his wife, and they in turn have invested in rentals, both single family, multifamily, primarily in their Roth. And so they have a lot of money, both cash and in real estate. Now, inside the self-directed retirement account, it's important to note you want some cash. And as you get closer to retirement, especially in the traditional funds, because they do have an RMD requirement, you're going to start to liquidate a little bit more and turn assets into cash. In the Roth, of course, there is no RMDs, required minimum distributions, so there's no need to necessarily do that unless you want to distribute cash to yourself at retirement time. But nonetheless, the idea is for the money to be working for you. So it's not the best thing to just have a bunch of cash sitting inside of your 401k not working. So it's deployed, in Brad's case, into real estate. And so when I say the result is millions of dollars in real estate, it's because he's got his money in investments, producing income, but also being reinvested into new investments at the same time. And so he has the power to do that with the self-directed account. And just as a reminder, if any of you have any questions, please don't wait. Just type them into the chat. I'm not going to answer them as I go, but I will give time at the end, and I don't want you to lose that question because we move on to a different topic. So just type it in. I may answer it. I may not during the course of the presentation, but either way, I'll circle back and cover those questions. I mentioned we do self-directed IRA and solo 401k. The self-directed IRA is for anybody. That's why there's that diverse group of people in that picture. Typically, you want to have some money that you can roll into the self-directed IRA, especially if you're going to invest in non-Wall Street assets, because the limit on the contributions is $7,000 a year. It takes a long time if you fund it from just contributions as opposed to rolling in existing funds. I'll talk about the type of funds that can go into the self-directed IRA in a moment. And then very similar to the solo 401k, most of our clients are rolling in funds, but not all of them, because the solo 401k has such high annual contribution limits. And if your self-employment activity that is required to adopt a solo 401k plan, which is why there's only 2 people in that picture, is robust enough, then you can maximize the contributions or even come close, which is up to $76,500 for 2024, $77,000 for 2025 if you're over 50, $69,000 or $69,500 if you're under 50. I'll break this down in more detail here in a few slides from now. But you can start the solo 401k from zero because of those high contribution limits. And but you can also roll existing retirement retirement funds into the solo 401k. And so these are the 2 products that we offer. First off, just this is the only slide I have on the checkbook IRA other than that previous one, just a diagram of how it works. First of all, you say, hey, I want to do this. I'm ready to go. We process the order. We get started. And the first thing we do is we open a new account with an IRS approved custodian. This isn't just any custodian like Vanguard or Fidelity. This is a custodian that allows for non-Wall Street assets. Incidentally, they also allow for Wall Street assets as well, though most of our clients are not necessarily looking for that. They're looking for non-Wall Street assets. So we open this account with an IRS approved custodian that allows non-Wall Street assets to be invested in. And then we set up the transfer. This is from a current IRA, could be Roth, could be traditional, it could be 401k, 403b. Now, typically the 401k needs to be from a former employer. There are some exceptions on that where if you're over 50, the 401k adoption agreement could provide for in-service rollovers. So you need to check with your provider on that and see if they will, if you're over 50. If you're under 50, you're kind of your money's stuck there while you're still employed. If it's former employer, you can do whatever you want with it. But yeah, if in-service rollover just means you're going to stay in service, you're staying employed there, and you're going to roll some of the funds out. Okay, so it's something to check into or consider before going too far down the path. So once that's done, the LLC, by the way, some of this is happening simultaneously, right? The transfer is set up, and while that's taking place, an LLC is created. This is a special purpose LLC. The single member is the IRA, and you are the manager of this LLC, which is what gives you checkbook control. Incidentally, all of our plans have checkbook control. I'm not really talking about too much of the difference between checkbook control versus not checkbook control, but I will say the checkbook control allows you to avoid the red tape involved with having to go through the custodian for all transactions, investments, incoming returns, money, and all that stuff, versus with the checkbook control, you have the ability to just handle all that yourself. So that's what the special purpose LLC is for. You as the manager of the LLC, which is where all the assets are held, including all the accounts, gives you the ability to sign for and make investment decisions on behalf of the IRA. And so with that control, you will open a bank account. This bank account is in the name of the LLC. It's going to be funded from that transfer. Okay, so the money is sitting with the custodian, and then it's transferred into the bank account. The IRA buys 100% of the units of that LLC, and then you can start to make investments once that's all done. The process does take between 3 and 4 weeks. The client is somewhat the pacing factor on this, depending on how quick they respond to what we ask for. And then once you start making investments, all the income and expenses will need to go into and out of that LLC checking account. Okay, so that's the checkbook IRA. Now the solo 401k is a little different. First of all, an individual cannot adopt a solo 401k. Sort of. They kind of can through the sole proprietorship, but there still needs to be legitimate self-employment activity. But any business type can actually sponsor or adopt a solo 401k plan. a corporation, S Corp, C Corp, LLC, partnership, sole proprietor. Those are some of the more common ones. And once you have that business in place, you can actually adopt the solo 401k plan. You don't even necessarily need money to be flowing in. You just need the activity, right? The intention of making money, the business, to be able to start the plan. Why would somebody do that? Well, because they may not be able to take advantage of the high contribution limits right out of the gate, but they can roll over existing plans, or existing retirement funds. I'll talk about that in a second. The solo 401k plan sponsor adopts the plan, plan and the trust is created. You are the trustee of the trust. This is where all the assets are. So IRA, LLC, solo 401k, trust, you're the trustee. And so that gives you the ability to open up the bank account at any bank or financial institution or brokerage. And then you can start to make investments. So all the income and all the investments go into and out of that home, which is the checking account, so that it stays within the 401k. All right. So that's how it works. You may be on here and may not be self-employed. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but just know that it's really not hard to be self-employed. In fact, I just consulted with somebody this morning who has 2 rental properties. This person is managing them herself, and she's just not paying herself for it. So she consulted her tax advisor, and she's going to very easily, as a sole proprietor, establish a property management company. That property management company is going to bill her and her rental properties a certain percentage of the monthly rent. And so now she has this legitimate self-employment activity for work that she's already doing, by the way, which allows her to start a solo 401k. And I'll talk a few minutes from now about why she wants to do this as opposed to just doing a self-directed IRA, but either one of them will work for investing in non-Wall Street assets. But benefits of being self-employed is, yes, you get to do a solo 401k. That's a big benefit. But there's other benefits, right? Lower tax bracket, build residual income. You can be your own boss, which may or may not provide you freedom. That's, I think, depends on the situation. You get to help people. Like, that's what we do at Sense Financial. I love this. It's so much fun consulting with people, conducting these presentations, and just quite honestly blowing people's mind with what you can do inside of a self-directed retirement account. But you get additional deductions, vehicle, office, home office, etc. And in many cases, you get to work from home, right? And so that's some of the benefits. By the way, back to that, it's really not hard to be self-employed. I said that, but I didn't give any examples. This could be a network marketing company. This could be a real estate agent. Many of our clients are real estate agents. I give you the example of the property management company earlier for managing your own rentals. Private money lenders, any legitimate business activity where you're actively working for the income, right? It can be a business that you have in place that's producing income for you, but it needs to be earned income, not passive, like rental income that you're kind of living on, or that can't sponsor a solo 401k. Okay, you can't have like Schedule E rental income. That doesn't work, right? It has to be actively earned business income. Flipping houses versus long-term buy and hold, right? Those are the 2 different examples there. Okay, enough of that. Contributions. So I already mentioned some of this, but the contribution limit for the solo 401k, $76,500. Now it's broken down between employer contributions and employee contributions, which I'll share more with you on the next slide. Proverbs 21:20 says, "The wise man saves for the future, but the foolish man spends whatever he gets." Yes, if you spend whatever you get, you will have holes in your pockets. And so definitely a good idea to save for the future. And this is how the contribution works. The employee, also known as the elective deferral employee contribution for 2024, is up to $23,000, up to 100% of your self-employment earnings. Contributions must be made within 7 days of you paying yourself. And these can be either pre-tax or Roth or after-tax contributions, okay? And so a good example of this, if you're an S Corp and you're running payroll and you pay yourself a W-2 of about $25,000, then you could put in $23,000. That's a rough number because you have to account for FICA and Medicare and such, and I don't know exactly what that number is. Consult with your CPA, but that's roughly what you could do. Now, if you're over 50, there's a catch-up contribution of $7,500, so it actually goes up to $30,500. So same example, if you W-2 yourself and you're over 50 of, maybe 33 or 34,000, you're going to be able to max out that employee contribution. Okay. Now on the flip side, so by the way, that employee contribution is the same that you have at your W-2 job if you have one. Okay. What you don't have at your W-2 job is profit sharing. Now, your employer might give you a match. That's not what I'm talking about. This is profit sharing. Up to 25% of your self-employed compensation if you're S Corp or C Corp and you're running payroll, and then 20% of your self-employment compensation if you're a sole proprietor. Actually, it's the profit of the company or single member LLC. And so that is between the 23 and the 25% or 20%. That's how you get to the 69,000. Okay. So it's the total of both of those. Now it's important to note, if you are working at a W-2 job and you're maxing out your contributions there, you cannot double dip on the employee contribution, but you could still do the profit sharing in your self-employment in your solo 401k. And you can go all the way from 0 to 69,000 or 76,500 with the profit sharing by itself. Okay. So if you're contributing 10,000 at your W-2, then, and you're under 50, that would give you another 13 to contribute in your solo 401k. So you just can't double dip on the employee contribution. Hopefully that makes sense. The numbers are changing a little bit for 2025, which I'll share in a few slides, or actually the next slide. And so here's the contribution limits for 2025. The real only difference for the solo 401k is on the employee contribution side, and that's an additional 500. So it's going up to 23.5. And then for the 401k catch-up contribution, it's still 7,500, but it's actually between 60 and 63. You actually have a catch-up contribution of 11,500. So an additional $4,000. Why 60 to 63? I have no idea. Somebody threw a dart at a wall or something and did that. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm sure there's some calculations that were made to determine that people between 60 and 63 needed an additional catch-up, but whatever. And then the HSA looks like it's going up as well. So that's pretty cool. So wanted to share that. Okay. Using leverage. So you actually can get a non-recourse loan. This is another reason why, investing in real estate may be a good idea for you inside your IRA or 401k. It's a good idea to do personally as well. There's different tax benefits involved, of course. But no one will, you could do margin trading, I suppose, inside the stock market and borrow money, but for the most part, nobody's going to give you more money to go buy S&P 500. Okay. But you can get leverage 30 to 50%, actually 50 to 70% leverage for buying an investment property inside your retirement account. It has to be non-recourse, which means you can't provide a personal guarantee. The property is the only security. So if your retirement account defaults on the loan, the only thing the lender can go after is the property, not you personally. The property does need a cash flow because it is a little more of an aggressive loan, a little more risky for the lender. It does require more down, 30 to 50%, as I noted. And then you do have to have some reserves. And this will trigger UDFI tax in the IRA, unrelated debt finance income, which actually triggers UBIT, unrelated business income tax. I don't have a whole slide on this, but suffice it to say, both the IRA and the 401k are subject to UBIT tax on active business income. So the retirement account is designed to be invested passively, not actively. So if you're flipping a bunch of houses, or if you are, if you're actually talked to a guy, he wasn't our client. I consulted with him, and he was running a what is that company called where Turo, Turo. He was running a Turo business with a couple cars inside of his IRA. So the IRA owned the cars, and he was running this business, and he was totally hands off, but it's active business income, right? So he was probably, I'm not a CPA and I didn't know enough about it to know the details, but my guess is that's an active business. That's not a passive activity. So that's going to trigger the UBIT tax because it's an active business. The other way inside the IRA only that a UBIT tax will get triggered is through leveraged real estate. Solo 401k is exempt from that, which means the portion of the income from the investment because of the loan, from the rental property because of the loan, or syndication, whatever it is, if it has leverage and it's real property, it's going to kick off this tax. So 50%, if it's 50% leveraged, 50% of the income is going to be subject to this tax. You can go to our website, SenseFinancial.com /non-recourse-lenders and see a list of non-recourse lenders. These are third party to us. We don't offer loans or investments for that matter directly. And so just check that out. There's probably 12 or 15 different lenders on there with different terms and conditions and such that you can talk to. What are the disallowed investments? Well, the IRS actually only tells you what's disallowed, not what you can invest in. So it's you could never exhaust that list. But what you can't invest in is collectibles and life insurance. And so those are the only two things. Collectibles, baseball card stamps, that sort of thing, coins, art, cars, exotic cars or whatever, you can't do that. And then life insurance, there is a way to do some life insurance inside the solo 401k, but not in the IRA. That is disallowed. The other disallowed investment is investing with disqualified persons. So you, your spouse, your parents, your grandparents, your children, and their spouses are all disqualified people. Okay, so it's the lineal descents, except you and your spouse, right? You and your spouse are one once you get married, and so the IRS treats you as such. What does that mean? Well, two things. One, if any of these people hold a controlling interest in an investment opportunity, you can't invest with that opportunity. Okay, it could be a business, it could be something else. You and none of these people can actually provide services or be compensated by the plan. Okay, so if you're managing a property that the IRA or 401k owns, is okay, but you want to be careful with what you do because you cannot quote unquote provide services. So think about when you think about providing services, think about white collar work versus blue collar work. So a good example is as a licensed real estate agent, I can't represent my 401k in a purchase. Even if I take no compensation, I could give up my entire commission and then but I'm still providing services. Okay. And that's not white collar services. Like I got to show the house. I got to go open the lockbox for the home inspector, the appraiser, potentially. There's all kinds of work to be done. I can't do that. I also couldn't get compensated. So if I was an agent and I got compensated and I provided the services, I'd be violating two of the rules. And you don't want to do that, especially in the IRA, but you don't want to do it in either one. The IRS says, no, no, no. These people can't benefit from an investment. So if I have a rental property in Arizona and my daughter is going to go to Arizona for school, she can't stay at that property. Even if she pays full market rent, she cannot benefit from the property or stay there. Okay. So that's another example. And so just make everything third party and it'll be okay. Kind of, right? You can do a brother, an uncle, an aunt, just not the lineal descents, as I mentioned. Okay. All right. So here's a snapshot of the IRA versus the 401k. And so a couple of call outs here. The IRA does not have a participant loan option where the 401k does. This is up to $50,000 or 50%, whichever is less, and paid back over the course of 5 years at an interest rate of prime plus 1. We talked about UBIT on leveraged real estate. The max contribution obviously is almost 10 times more in the IRA and the 401k versus the IRA. And one thing that comes up often is people ask me, if I have an IRA, can I contribute to the 401k? Or if I have a solo 401k and I'm maxing it out, can I also contribute to the IRA? And the answer is yes. The IRA is not, those are two separate retirement plans, so that's fine. The 401k, we did not talk about this, but I need to, has a built-in Roth component where the IRA doesn't. The IRA is either a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. Doesn't matter if it's self-directed or not. You can have both, but it's one or the other. The solo 401k has both of those buckets in there, the Roth and the traditional. So it's a little more versatile from that perspective as well. Obviously, self-employment required for the 401k. And then the IRA has the LLC fees depending on what state you're in. So that's important to note as well. And that's pretty much it on that slide. So hopefully that chart here helps you out. Oh, one more note, actually. The IRA, you still have to have a custodian with the IRA. We cannot eliminate them. We just bypass them with the use of the LLC. The solo 401k, we actually don't need a custodian. Okay, so that is why it says no right there, because there is no custodian. The custodian will still be in place for the IRA, and they only come into play in a few instances. One, when you're creating the plan, of course, you got to open the account, and then any rollovers go through the custodian. Any distributions to yourself at retirement time go through the custodian. Any Roth conversions go through the custodian. The annual valuation, $54.98 for the IRA, goes through the custodian. The solo 401k, you have a 5500 EZ form instead of a 54.98, but they're essentially equivalent to let the IRS know what the value of the plan is. The difference is the IRA always requires it, and the 401k is only required once you get up to $250,000 or more of total plan assets. We recommend you just start doing it right away, because we believe it starts the statute of limitations on how far back the IRS can go for audit situations. Not that that's a big concern with the solo 401ks, it really isn't, but it's just a nice benefit to reason to start the 5500 right away. And by the way, we have instructions on our client portal of how to do all of this. Okay, so we've been doing this for 15 years, so just about everything is inside there that you might have questions on. And then as a company, of course, we offer unlimited client support, and so you're welcome to call us anytime. By the way, I want to offer a free consultation, totally complimentary, no hard selling, just to get to know you and your situation and provide the best guidance possible. Whether you end up going with us, we want you to, of course, or somebody else. We just want to see more people, at least with the knowledge of that they can self-direct their retirement accounts. And so SenseFinancial.com/free-consultation is where to grab a link to my calendar, and you can contact us anytime. But before we part ways, that wraps up my official part of this presentation. Let's take some questions, comments, anything you guys have. Happy to go through those.
Okay, so we do have one question. If there are additional questions, please don't hesitate to ask. You can use this time to type them up. But this question is from Mike. I own a construction company with my brother. It's set up as LLC filing, as S Corp. We both collect W-2 salary of $18K per year. Do I qualify for solo 401k? How much can I contribute personally and from business? Is the contribution tax deferral?
Good question. Thanks, Mike. Well, let's address the first part of that. Do you qualify? And if I understand your question correctly, you're saying that you and your brother own the company, but then you're also saying that it's an LLC filing as an S corp. So does that mean you're both? Are you set up as a partnership? It sounds like you are, and then you're both on payroll under the S corp. So partnerships can adopt a solo 401k plan. They don't have to be spouses. So that should be okay. The next part of your question is, can we both collect W-2 salary of $18K per year? Do I qualify for solo? Yeah. Yes. I mean, your salary is up to you. How can I contribute personally and from the business? So if it's a partnership, it's important to know the two buckets, right? The employee contribution and the profit sharing contribution are two separate contributions, of course, right? So your W-2 salary, if you're contributing if your total W-2 for the year is 18,000, you're going to be able to contribute approximately 25% of that, which is 4,500. Same thing with your brother if you're both getting the same salary. That's your own personal contribution. Now, on top of that, you can contribute 25% profit sharing. So 25% of $18,000. Oops, sorry, I misspoke. The profit sharing contribution is $4,500, 25% of the total W-2 salary. I'm going to circle back to that because there's an important note about the partnership situation. For your elective deferral, you can contribute about 100%, just up to 100%, right? But you got to account for FICA and Medicare. So it's going to be probably roughly like 16, 17,000, somewhere around there. We have a contributions calculator on our website that anybody can access. It's not just for clients. If you wanted to check out just an example of what those numbers might look like. So I would recommend you punch those numbers in and see. But for you at 18,000, you're probably not going to do profit sharing on top of that because you're already going to max out the employee contribution. And it's not a percentage. It's just about 100% of that W-2. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, if you do profit sharing, the partnership situation nuance is that both partners actually have to participate in the profit sharing at the same percentage. It doesn't have to be the same dollar amount, but you both have to participate in the same percentage. You don't have to both do the employee contribution that we were just talking about. That's optional. But profit sharing, both have to do. So hopefully that makes sense. Appreciate the question. Looks like we have another one.
This one is from John. Fees for setup management. How do transfers from SEP slash traditional slash 403B in?
Yeah, great question, John. Appreciate it. Depends on what we're talking about here. If we're talking about solo 401k, then our establishment fee is $600, and then our annual fee is $250, which starts in year number 2. And then for the self-directed IRA LLC is a $2,000 establishment fee, and then a $250 annual custodial fee starting in year number 2. So those are the different prices. There are no additional fees for transfers or anything else. And understand, please, that you are the manager. You are the manager of the LLC. You are the plan administrator of the 401k. So you have the ability you are the manager, right? We are not. We're here for support. We're here for our annual reporting we have to do to the IRS. We're here to assist you in the 5,500 if you need help with that. For the solo 401k, we offer unlimited client support. But understand, with Checkbook Control, you are the fiduciary and you are be able to make investments without going through anybody else. That's a benefit of Checkbook Control. And then as far as transfers go, you'll go through the custodian, of course, for the IRA, custodian to custodian. For the 401k, it's custodian to solo 401k. Checking account really is the easiest way to say it.
Next question is from Jim. Can we operate a real estate flip business in our solo 401k? Can we access tax-free and non-penalty-free Roth or solo 401k before age 59 and a half?
Well, the answer is yes to both of those. If you don't want to incur the UBIT tax on that flipping activity, then you should probably not make it the primary nature of the 401k or IRA. You should probably do buy and hold primarily, or private money lending primarily, and then maybe once or twice a year flip a property or two. And then you'll be able to kind of fly under the radar of that actively earned business income subject to the UBIT tax. But you can do it. I mean, we have clients that are only fixing and flipping in their 401k or IRA, and they're okay with incurring that tax. It scales up to 37% at 12,500 about of annual income minus expenses and such before it's calculated. So understand what you're doing before you are going to risk incurring that tax. Doesn't mean it doesn't make sense. You just need to kind of factor it in, and that's a tax return for the plan, not for you. You cannot pay that tax. And then the second question, sure, yeah, the Roth funds are the principal on the Roth is already taxed. It's after tax money, so you can access that anytime you want. That is correct.
We have a follow-up question from Mike. Will it be 100% of the salary plus 25% from profit sharing of the salary for each partner? And is the contribution tax deferred?
Yes, up to 100% of the salary, again, minus those taxes I mentioned, up to 100% of the salary, not to exceed 23,000 or 30,500 if you're over 50, plus 25% of the W-2 for the year. That is correct. Tax deferred, Roth, combination, it's totally up to you on both of those, by the way. The profit sharing and the employee contribution, they could be Roth or traditional or both.
Another question from John. Need to establish a new LLC and associated fees?
That's right. That's all included in our establishment fee that we talked about.
Okay, and then a question here from Jim. How much money?
Sorry,
Go ahead.
let me finish up with John real quick because I was hasty with that answer. The establishment fee includes the creation of everything, the establishment of the LLC, the plan itself, all of it. Okay, the assistance with the transfers, the rollovers, all of that. The ongoing fees for the LLC, the state filing fees, and the state requirements are going to vary by state. Once the plan is set up, you're responsible as the manager of the plan of the LLC to take care of those fees and requirements for that particular state requires on an ongoing basis.
Okay, Jim is asking how much money is needed to establish the solo 401k?
Well, Jim, our establishment fee is $600, so that's all that's needed. I know that's not what you're asking, but there's no minimum or maximum. Like I said, you're gonna many of our clients set up the solo 401k and then fund it just from the contributions. So they essentially started at zero and they fund it from contributions from the sponsoring business. And some people roll money in and then also add contributions. It has the flexibility there. It's up to you. So there's really no minimum.
And Jim is also asking how long does it take to establish the solo 401k? Weeks, days, or minutes?
I love it.
Mhm.
I suppose we could do the math on the minutes, but it takes about 4 days, Jim. Um, it's you're somewhat the pacing factor on the setup because we need you to do certain things like sign stuff and initiate things and that sort of stuff. But we walk you through all of it, step-by-step instructions. 4 days to establish the plan. That doesn't include, it includes setting up the rollover or rollovers from existing accounts if you want to do that during the establishment period. But it doesn't necessarily include how long it's going to take that third-party custodian to actually initiate that rollover. So they kind of vary, right? Some of them. So they all vary a little bit. Generally speaking, inside of about a week and a half to 2 weeks, you can have the whole plan set up and money in there to self-direct. And then, yeah, that's it.
Next question is from Elvis. What are the best states for an LLC and solo 401k?
Sure. Well, good question. We're not CPAs or tax advisors or attorneys, so probably not going to be able to speak to your specific situation, what the best state to do it in, but I'll tell you what most of our clients do for the LLC. Generally, it's the state they live in for a couple of reasons. One, you don't need a third-party registered agent. The client themselves can act as the registered agent, so you avoid the annual fees that come along with that. And then it's simpler because you just handle everything directly. If somebody lives in California or New York, where the LLC, the annual fee is high in California, here it's $800 a year, so people want to sometimes avoid that. So a lot of times they'll do Arizona because Arizona has a $0 annual fee. But it really just depends. We'll set it up wherever you advise us to. But if you're really questioning, which state is the best, you probably should consult your tax advisor on that. Just bear in mind, this is a holding company LLC. This is not something you're necessarily running a business in, so there shouldn't be any sort of like business tax returns involved. There could be, like I know Texas has a tax on the LLC income, but that's not for the investing. That would be like if you, this is going to get a little bit complicated, but if you set up an LLC as what's called a blocker corporation so that you can run an active business in the IRA, but have the income flow to that LLC instead of to the IRA directly, you can actually reduce the UBIT tax from 37% down to the corporate income tax rate of 21%. Consult your tax advisor for more on this. And so all that income that's coming through that LLC in the state like Texas is subject to an additional tax, but that's not the same as running your IRA LLC and just investing in like buy and hold real estate and such. I'm talking about like an active business. So you should consult your tax advisor for the ultimate answer. And then the solo 401k, there, it's really where the person lives. I mean, the solo 401k is not tied to any specific state per se. It is in the sense of creditor protection, because the solo 401k creditor protection wise is actually established by each individual state. So that's going to be determined based on your home address, not the plan being set up in a particular state. Because once you move, you're under that state guidelines. Remember, the solo 401k is a trust, and because of that, there's no establishment or filing with the state for that. It's just a private document between us. And from a creditor protection standpoint, I believe Michigan and Maine are the only ones that don't really offer a whole lot of creditor protection, but every other state does. And so, reach out to me if you want more info on that. But good questions.
Okay, question here from Mike. Can I invest my self-directed solo 401k funds in a syndication where I'm also a GP?
Mike, I would not do that. There's too many opportunities out there for you to risk committing a prohibited transaction. Technically speaking, if you're under a certain percentage, and this varies by opinion from attorneys, I've heard 21% or under, 30% or under, under 50% of a controlling interest, then it could be okay. This is ultimately an attorney tax advisor type question, but I would say just probably a best idea not to do that.
This question is from John. Assuming defined benefit plans are not eligible?
No, they could be. Yeah, if they're a qualified retirement account, then they can roll into the solo 401k.
Okay, this question's from Jim. Can you start a solo 401k if you have not yet received your EIN for your self-employed business?
We will need that to finalize the establishment of the solo 401k. As part of our onboarding earlier in my presentation, I mentioned that the first task our clients do is fill out a client information form. In that form, it's going to ask you for the EIN number of the adopting business. And it's going to say, if you don't have one, click here, go to this part of the IRS website to obtain one, and then you will get one right there on the spot. Generally, it takes just a few minutes or less. If you've had one in the past or the company has, they may require you to call, which adds a little bit more complexity. But generally speaking, most of our clients can just grab it right then and there on the IRS website.
Okay, looks like those were all of the questions. So we will go ahead and conclude our session today. Thank you, everyone, for joining. If there are any additional questions, or if you are interested in speaking with Brett about your specific situation, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd be happy to help. Other than that, hope you all have a great day.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Natalie.